super team anymore.
Yeah.
This is Flight Check Season 4, Episode 3. We're back once again, talking all aspects of FlyQuest, the non-super team, who remains 6-1 at the end of Week 3 of the LCS, atop the entire league, ahead of where many so-called analysts had their predictions. And I, for one, am excited to see where this season continues to go. My name, as always, is Sandy Toes, and to my left and my extra left are my fellow hosts, Noxwar with a working camera and Curly Double Q. Nox, how good does it feel to not be frozen on stream anymore?
It feels great. The fact that I can actually check and see, make sure things are working, and then like I can be animated again, and like I can look excited. It's nice because beforehand it was a little sad just knowing I was just
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah. Good to have you back in the land of the moving. Curly, a solid weekend. How are you feeling? What have you been up to in the past week? You've got some wet hair going on over there. I think this might be...
I do.
Is this like the first time we've ever seen you on the show? Like,
this is the only time gravity's ever affected my hair on camera, and
Yeah.
it will never, ever, ever happen again. So help me God. Today has just been a runaround. But we made it. We made it. And honestly, like this weekend was also just as much of a runaround. But I am super hyped being the only host to have true faith through the whole weekend.
This is true. I think Nox and I do have to apologize for our lack of faith. I really thought that Cloud9 was going to pull it back and not be as disappointing as they have been, but plenty of time to talk about that.
I mean, look, a loss to Shopify Rebellion, that's a red flag to me.
Yeah,
not good.
Not good. All right. Well, I think with that, why don't we take some time to go around the league and just kind of check in. We are halfway through the spring split now. Good time, as always, for us to discuss what is happening. And obviously, the big thing that I don't want us to miss, and I'll just kind of take it off the board for us right away, Cloud9 sitting at 3-4 after 7 games. And I'm trying to see, I'm going to pull up their schedule, who exactly they lost to. So it would have been Shopify Rebellion, us, and then they also lost to Immortals and Team Liquid over the weekend. And frankly, not looking good in any of those games. Like, legitimately looked uncoordinated, bad, desperate in some cases. This is a weird thing to be seeing from this team. It was like the first time since 2016 that Cloud9 has lost 4 games in a row. I think was the stat that I saw on the broadcast.
2016? That's wild.
Wow.
Well, it had been
That's
like
a long time.
It had been 500 something days since they had lost 3 games in a row. And then they had to go even further back to find 4 losses in a row, which is crazy. Curly, from your perspective, what's gone wrong? Is it just the super team curse?
I mean, here's the thing. I guess I just don't like to throw the term super team around. But they're just kind of not on it. Like, whatever momentum they had at the start really kind of fell flat. Like, I'm going to be honest, Fudge has not shown up as much as I expected him to, and a lot of other people expected him to in the top lane, which is kind of rough because with the way the meta is right now, you want your top laner to be able to be stable and then be ready to be present at the right moments, and that's just not happening with Fudge. And then, admittedly, like, there's something weird in the water in the bot lane. Like, I don't know what's going on. Berserker has not been on it, and in a Discord that Nox and I are in, we've heard discussions of NA claiming another ADC, and so it could be the case of that. But yeah, it's just things kind of seem to be awry all over the place. And JoJo is like a pendulum where he's either really on it or really not, so it's just all around kind of just it seems strange. Now, granted, we're only halfway through the split, and they at least gave themselves a little bit of a buffer by starting out 3-0, so they have time to recover. But right now, it's just looking pretty rough.
Yeah. Knox, Mithy on Twitter, I believe it was yesterday, basically took responsibility for, he called it, a lack of preparation for these games. Are you seeing things as more of that lack of preparation, maybe like draft diff in some ways, or are you seeing it more in the actual playing out in the games?
I'm seeing it honestly more in the playing out of games. So Loyota, who was an ex FlyQuest scout / analyst, is now currently an Immortals analyst. Um, just actually earlier, like I think even less than an hour ago, it is a fresh video. Uh, just dropped like a 30-minute video on the whole LCS, and he had a little section that I was DMing him about, and so him and I were having a bit of a discussion on what's going on with Cloud9, because like an 0-4 start for Cloud9 is just absolutely insane, right? And so something that he's come to the conclusion to, and he was kind of helping point out to me, was that Blabber has not been utilizing the fact that his lanes are winning, because like even though Curly, to your point, Fudge has been doing nothing in the top lane, and he is still winning lane, right? So you have JoJo who's winning lane, you have Fudge who's winning lane, you have Berserker and Vulcan who've typically been doing okay in lane. Surprisingly, not really winning lane, but they've been doing okay in lane, right? And so Blabber has not been punishing these teams for like having lanes that are losing, which has been very, very curious, because it's like the Immortals game, especially, for instance, right? Like Berserker and Vulcan were completely crushing Tactical and Ole, and Blabber just never dived them. Like the game could have been a completely done and ended. Like I think it was like around the 7-minute mark, and there was no punishment. Immortals kept the deficit at 2K gold for the next 20 minutes, and because they had a better team fight scaling comp, eventually when it came time to fight for objectives, they just ended up winning. So it's stuff like that where it's like, that's not prep, that's just like game knowledge. Like, hey, I've crushed my bot lane. Hey, I crushed my top lane. Come over here and dive and get this guy out of my game. Like, he does not deserve to play this game anymore, right? So it's kind of like stuff like that. Like, I don't know what Blabber doesn't have that killer instinct right now, which just sucks, because he's been such a good jungler for the past however many years. Like, he's just surpassed like what was it? Actually, he just missed it by one game, because you and I were there, Sandy. But like the best win percentage in 300 games or whatever, and constant MVP chances, so on and forth. Like, he's been at the forefront of like best jungler for quite a while here in North America. And a lot of people are like making arguments for him to be like the new NA GOAT over Bjergsen or Jensen or Doublelift or whoever it may be. And so to see him kind of performing like this, like it hurts a little bit. And hopefully, for the sake of the league, because I think he adds a lot of quality to this league and helps push teams to be better, he kind of steps it up. So long story short, I think a lot of this is like Blabber needs to get back to his form, because I think his team is relying on him to actually do something, because they're setting his lanes up for him, but it's like, you need to put the final hammer in the coffin, or the nail in the coffin. Damn, I did it. Head hammer. What is with me and hammer analogies? I suck at these.
We'll let you go on that one. No, yeah, it's an interesting conundrum, and yeah, there's plenty of time actually left in the season, weirdly enough, because while week 4 is up this weekend, then there's going to be like a 2-week break. So they will have some time to maybe figure things out through scrims or whatever. And I don't see them falling as far as to not make top 6 and make it into playoffs. But now I'm looking at this and I'm going, will they make top 4? And that's an interesting conversation. Now, the team that I want to bring up that I wonder could replace them in the top 4, because presumably us, NRG, and Team Liquid will probably be in that top 4. 100 Thieves. Let's talk about them. 4-3 in terms of who they did beat. The teams that they should have in terms of Shopify Rebellion, Immortals, Dig, and Team Liquid, interestingly enough, way back in week 1. And then losing to Cloud9, NRG, and us. So kind of right there in that middle group of, kind of the gatekeeper role of good enough to beat the bad teams, not good enough to beat the best teams. Nox, I'll ask you first. Where do you see 100 Thieves finishing by the end of the season, considering that you did have them lower in your power rankings in the preseason than perhaps I did. And I know Curly didn't have them very high either, but we'll get to him next.
No,
Where
I
are
have
you
them
seeing
low.
100 Thieves wind up when this is all said and done?
It's okay. We're halfway through. There's been 8 games played or 7 games played for each team, right? I'm like, I feel like this league could be still so swingy, right? I could see a world where 100 Thieves completely replicates what they did, and they go 4-3 again, and they manage to finish 8-6, and that's enough for a top 4 finish. I can totally see it. There's another world where I think Shopify finally gets their shit together. I think Cloud9 gets their crap together. I think Team Liquid doesn't let them take another game off of them again. Just like there's a complete and utter world where I think all this stuff can come crashing down on them too. I do not think they're going to keep the top 4, but I think it's going to be close. I think they're going to. I don't think it'll be that 6th place spot. I think they're going to probably finish 5th. I think they're just barely going to eke on out. I expect teams to start leveling up a little bit now that we're in the back half of the split. For instance, like Palafox and NRG, like keep saying like, oh yeah, we need to warm up a little bit. We need to like get it going. We actually need to try hard a little harder. Stuff like that. I kind of expect teams to kind of get in gear a little bit, like really shift it into 4th and just go. So, and for that reason alone, I'm expecting 100 Thieves to start kind of getting checked a little more, because 100 Thieves is actually one of the more proactive teams in the league, and that's good. I love that, but I don't think River and Quid are going to be able to sustain that against some of the other teams that are wanting to actually maybe slow things down a little bit and play a little more controlled game or check them on certain things a little better. And that's going to be what ends up dragging them down a little bit.
Yeah. Curly, your thoughts on 100 Thieves and where they'll end up?
So I see them a lot hotter than I saw them at the start. Like these last couple weeks, like first week kind of went to expectation aside from the surprise win on TL. But then like these last 2 weeks, they've really been overperforming for my expectations. And then Sniper has really been showing himself as that prodigy top laner that we kind of expect him to be against most of the other teams, you know? Like we were able to keep him in check because we should. But aside from that, he's actually really been having a good time. And then Quid is another case of he has some really top notch performances that shatter my expectations I had for him at this top start of the season. So I actually really do think that this team could make it into the top half of the league and stay there by the end of the split. Like they're already tied for second in the 3-way tie. So I think they could stay up there and make top 4, even top 3, you know?
Yeah. Well, it'll be exciting for sure. And I'm interested to see where they end up and if they snag that 4th place spot away from a clearly struggling Cloud9.
I think my last comment on it, I will say, is I think River is playing out of his freaking mind right now.
He is hard carrying that team for sure.
If River can keep it up, then they will absolutely keep themselves in top 4. But if you're relying on one player to do all this heavy lifting, do not be surprised when other teams start to check that player and start to punish him in other ways.
Right.
So
yeah,
I need to see the rest of 100 Thieves. Not to say they haven't been stepping up, like that. Not that they haven't been performing. Like Quid especially has stepped up, but you need to like actually have guys start getting on your level if you want to sustain this. I think.
Yeah. I agree. All right. Anything final from you guys on around the league? Any teams halfway through the season that have surprised you, disappointed you, anything like that?
I mean, I think we got to talk about Immortals. Immortals has also been one of those teams that's been overperforming for some people's expectations. Like they're 3-4, so they're tied for 5th with Cloud9. But you saw at the start, like on day 1, every single analyst had them in last place, had them stuck down there. And then I know you guys also had them down low, whereas I had them all the way up at 5th because I really do think a lot of what's going on is that behind the scenes, like whatever work that Sharks and Loyota are doing over there, they're really getting the best out of this squad, you know? And I also have to put a lot of respect on the Tactical's name. He's had some really pop-off moments that I don't kind of expect from him. Like I know some people call him a paycheck stealer, etc. But like, I think he's really doing his job to earn it this split.
Yeah.
Yeah, tactical. the one thing that Tactical has always been very consistent at is he is always, and I mean this in a good sense. Well, sometimes in a bad sense, but like mainly in a good sense. He is always a part of the game, which sounds like a really dumb phrasing, but he's always included. He's always a part of it. He's always trying to get something to happen. You can almost take this as like a coin flippy term or coin flippy turn of phrase, however you want to think about it. But like he is actively always trying to win the game.
Mhm.
And so I think in a league where, in my opinion, the overall quality of gameplay in the league has gone down, he's not getting punished as hard. So the moments where he's actually putting himself out there and trying to make something happen, he's succeeding more often, which is good because people are getting checked and it hopefully helps them learn a little bit like, oh, I can't do that, so on and so forth. So yeah, I think he looks a little bit better in general because he's not getting checked on his own aggressions as much. And because of that, I think it's actually helping Immortals look a little successful. And that's awesome. That's cool. Hopefully he continues to narrow down and like really become an elite AD carry again.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what he can do with Immortals. I've been very pleasantly surprised with how this team actually looks, even though they're only 3-4.
Yeah, I think of all the teams that people initially predicted to be at the bottom between Immortals, Dig, and Shopify, Immortals has looked the best to me. Final note, I do want to touch on Shopify. Maybe the most disappointing team for me. I had higher expectations from this team with, a lot of pieces. Yeah, I mean, 2 pieces from last year's TSM squad, Boogie and Insanity. So you still have that core. Zazel, I was really excited to have him back in the league. And Fake God, after a really strong Challengers season last year, people had kind of written this guy off, and he kind of took the Dokla approach, right? Resurrecting his career back through Academy. This team has been kind of disappointing for me, and they've really not, besides, the one Cloud9 win and beating NRG, like they can clearly win against good teams, but then if you're beating like Cloud9 and NRG, you need to be able to beat the Immortals, the Dignitoses, the 100 Thieves, etc. So that's why they're disappointing for me, not because like, oh, they're so bad, but because I just think that they're playing under the level that I think they are capable of, and that's what's disappointing. Is I think this team probably is more in that like 4-5 conversation because they can beat good teams. They're just not beating the bad teams as well. So
I think for me, what like is kind of killing me is TSM's success from last year. A lot of it came from B-Boy, or not B-Boy, good lord,
Turtle.
Boogie and Insanity being a strong mid-jungle duo and forcing things around the map, like Graves mid, the Elise that was popping out back then, stuff of that sort. And they were really putting themselves out there and like just a lot of agency in the game. Like, and don't get me wrong, Turtle was doing good too. But I think B-Boy so far, as much as I was wanting to be a B-Boy hater, because it was like, come on, get in like a North American domestic AD carry. Like, why are you getting this guy? Like, I get it. Revan knows this guy, but it's like, just get a North American AD carry. Like, please. But point being is, like, the AD carries, like, gameplay-wise, I've both been there. They've both been solid. So it's kind of more on the mid-jungle synergy to carry the game for this team, right? In which case, compared to last year, Insanity has not looked good. Part of it is like the champions he's picking. I don't know why he's doing like the Zac sub, the Garen mid, so on and so forth. I think with Fake God in the top lane, because I have not really been overly impressed with Fake God either. He doesn't have a lot of huge carry potential. I need to see Insanity picking stuff that's going to put a little more carry oomph into his team's champions. And so hopefully, like, Insanity can start carrying games a little bit better, because I don't think Garen's going to do that for him. Zac's not really going to do that. It's champions that are going to disrupt the meta a little bit, make the enemy team more confused on how to play it properly, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of forcing your enemy team to, like, mess up because they don't know what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think more than anything, you just need more firepower. Like, let Fake God try and mess people up. Let Zazel try and mess people up. Let Boogie try and mess people up for you. I kind of want to see Insanity, like, if you want to pick out weird off-meta carries, like if you want to break out the Hue or something, because I don't know if a lot of teams are actually practicing that or whatever, by all means, go for it. But I don't think these tank mids like Sion, Zac, Garen, etc. are really going to be able to you need to punch through to get those wins. So that's kind of my thoughts right now. I want Insanity to kind of go back to not necessarily meta. It does not have to be meta, but more traditional carry mid laners is what I want to see. And hopefully from there, maybe Shopify can start picking up some wins. Because I think the bot lane is okay. I think Boogie has been okay. I want to see more from Fate God, but like Insanity's just been disappointing for me. And I think a lot of that just stems from his champion picks. As fun and exciting as they are, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Insanity definitely taking the award handily for most exciting picks in the mid lane. Most exciting picks overall, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
In the entire LCS. But yeah, it's just not translating to those wins. Curly, any final thoughts here before we move on?
No, honestly, I think you guys kind of wrapped it all up nice with a bow. Like, I do think Insanity's exotic picks are kind of, I guess,
Exotic.
what they should
That's
bank on.
a good word.
Yeah, exotic's a good word for it.
So I'd say like use that to your advantage, because like the 2 Scion games he played were the ones they won. So figure out why that is and figure out what kind of, how deep into his pool you need to go.
For sure. All right, well, let's talk about the best team in North America, FlyQuest. LCS
Number
Super
one.
League
Yeah,
3,
baby.
Number 1, taking down 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and Dignitas in that order. And I'm going to be a little self-promoting here just for a moment. I just want to bring up a tweet I made on Friday. I said, big weekend for FlyQuest. While eyes will be primarily on the match against Cloud9 tomorrow, a strong week altogether will definitively prove that they are a top team in the hashtag LCS. Expectations should be high. Fellas, do you think that the expectations were met this weekend?
From what I saw, yes.
I would say for Curly, yes. I would say for you and I, Sandy, they were exceeded.
Right, they were exceeded.
Yeah.
You and I did have the 2-1 week with blah 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 losing to Cloud9 on the table as well. But fortunately, we were wrong. Let's talk about first the 100 Thieves game. And we can probably sum up both it and the 100 Thieves game pretty quickly. Strong, dominant performances both ways. I'm pulling up the draft right now, which I should have done beforehand. Pardon me. Yeah, we had... we were red side, and we end up taking... we've got Varus, Maokai... Azir, and then the Nico and the Olaf. Blippo back to the Olaf. I will also note lots of Varus for Massu this weekend, or lots of Varus recently. Nox back to the Olaf for Blippo. And again, it kind of works out, and he does pretty well with it. And then for the rest of the gang, like some pretty standard picks. Like this is starting to feel like a kind of comp that we are just kind of used to seeing from this team. And I like it. I like how it works. I like Busio busting out the Nico. Jensen just, perma on Azir Orianna. Put Inspired on a tank. Let Whippo do what he wants. Feed Massu what he needs. And things turned out well. Yeah, solid game all around. What were your big takeaways from this game?
From the 100 Thieves specifically?
Yeah, 100 Thieves specifically.
I just, in general, Busio is absolutely cracked. I think he just is leading the lane extremely well right now. And then, yeah, Whippo has this thing for just, like, he understands how he wants to play the lane, right? And so, basically, he completely negates what the top laner wants to do. And then he's taking like late scaling runes and like late game scaling builds,
Mhm.
and then he just pops up around the 20-25 minute mark with like 200 farm and like 2.5 items, and he's like, and boom, you're gone. And like, where has this been all game? And
Right.
it's like, I was up top playing on my island. It's like, you
Yeah.
should have checked in a little earlier. So I mean, it works for now, right? Especially against Sniper, who I think it was a little humbling experience for Sniper. If you guys watched pros afterwards on like Sunday, we was talking. Sniper talked about it for a second. And he was just like, I didn't know what to do. Like I was completely lost, and that's kind of like my welcome to the LCS moment for me, honestly. And so and that's kind of cool to see him realize that, right? So I think in general, at least for this 100 Thieves game, it was just solid standard gameplay. Outside of the one little blip in the early game where I think, what was it? Meech and Ayla got that kill on Busio. That was like one little hiccup, but then it was immediately returned by a nice little ultimate from Massu, who caught Meech out, and so it evened itself out. And from there, it just kind of the game played standard, which was very interesting because I was praising 100 Thieves earlier for being a team that's generally known for wanting to push things as quickly as possible. Fly just said, nope, you don't get to try to do anything. We're going to control all of our objectives. We're going to push all of our lanes in, and we're just going to win all the team fights from here on out because we've got Jensen on his ear and long range poke from Massu. Like, good luck. It's just not going to happen. So, no, it was just a solid, clean game. Again, the only blip was that one little level 1 oopsies, and that was it.
Yep. Yeah, Curly, seeing Blippo back on the Olaf, I bet that felt good. What were your top lane? What were your top lane takeaways this round?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It kind of the only difference between this time and the last time he played Olaf is he was able to get 7 kills and only die once. You know, so he was allowed to pop off a lot more than the previous time, but he just had really good discipline. And like a lot of my notes about Whippo are that he just kind of steadily, like, he keeps putting pressure on his lane opponents. That's a lot of how he gets these wins. It's like he keeps them in an awkward spot where he can easily escape if he's ganked, but the enemy, like, top laner does not have access to the river to try and get void lanes and all that stuff. He's comfortably building CS leads, and so that's kind of what I saw happen here. Is he like just kept Sniper, you know, push up against the ropes, took a duel to get him out in early game, build up his CS lead, and then just kept on scaling until it was time for him to do Olaf things.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Real solid stuff. Yeah. And, you know, this was, for me watching this game, it was great to see just a dominant win. Just narrative-wise, you know, not struggling to close things out. You know, unlike other teams that I could mention perhaps on day 3 of the Super Week. But let's talk about Cloud9, the Cloud9 matchup now. Also, some interesting stuff going on in this one. The brand jungle coming out for Inspired. This was great. I loved seeing this pick come out. I'm really enjoying seeing it being played. It's nice to have some kind of, you know, new pick in the jungle after, you know, we've basically been stuck with the same jungle meta for a long time now. You know, Viego, Maokai, I'm just looking at what else is being played. You know, Sejuani is still being played. Graves, Vi, you know, we had Lee Sin, Poppy, Nocturne. Like, there's a lot, but there's a lot of champs that are viable in the jungle, but this is like new. Like, this is like, we haven't really seen this before in pro play. So super exciting. Brand jungle, from top to bottom, we got Cassante, Brand, Orianna, Varus, Nautilus. Again, more Varus for Massu. And then we just kind of ran over the bot lane in this one.
It was a very, very uncharacteristic. Like, it was not even Vulcan's fault. I don't know about the second kill or the second set of deaths, but the first one, though, was like straight Berserker inting. I don't know. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Berserker int that hard, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it was extremely uncharacteristic.
Yeah, not great. I mean, of course, we got to talk about that Nautilus hook around the tower.
Yeah, that was insane. That
You
was
know,
completely
like hitbox.
Oh, that was
please.
a Nautilus moment.
Yeah, that was a Nautilus Q moment if I have ever seen one. Yeah, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but bot lane just really going hard in this game, doing really well. And everyone else just kind of like did their job. Nothing too crazy. I do want to ask the question, and Curly, I'll ask you this first. How much of this do you think was, okay, FlyQuest played really well, or that, like, hey, bot lane got a huge advantage and it was kind of over from there, and then Cloud9 just kind of like, frankly, in my mind, kind of like inted the rest of the game away. They kind of started looking a little desperate to do anything after the bot lane failure.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is there's definitely a lot of chance that they kind of treated it like, well, shit, we lost the game in the first 5 minutes because of this double kill that happened bot lane. Because it really did shut them down a lot. And especially because it enabled us to really just run away with things. And then Brand, his consistency of like clearing the jungle made it like kind of difficult for Blabber to get places. But I also think their macro just also wasn't there because like as much as I think FlyQuest really played well, equally C9 just didn't play to the standard you expect them to. Because in my notes here, it's like they had some potential moments to come back where it's like they baited the bot duo in the mid lane at about like in I want to say 15-minute mark, but they didn't commit to shutting down Massu, even though it was like kind of wide open and they just didn't finish him off there. Um and yeah, it was just it just kind of wasn't a thing. And then even when they collapse on Jensen a few minutes later on that, it's like Jensen's able to. This is one I'm going to say that we played it well, and especially Jensen's like he's able to drag it out until the team recoups, and we turn around to take the Drake and then take the bot tier 1. And the only consolation is that C9 was split pushing in the top lane at the same time. You know, so it's kind of a coin flip of like did we play like was our good gameplay, was that what won it for us? I would say so, yes, but like I do acknowledge that Cloud9 just isn't playing how they normally do.
Yeah. Yeah, Knox, I think it's an interesting question. With the way Cloud9 has been, playing poorly of late, I mean, how much stock should we really put into this win for FlyQuest? Is it, hey, it's still Cloud9, it's still 5 really good players who are just kind of not on the same page right now?
It is still 5 really good players who are still just not on the page right now.
So you're on the line of thinking that, hey, it still means the same thing as like what beating Cloud9 normally would mean. Rather than
I would say like yes with an asterisk, right? Like I think it's very, very important that Fly have beaten Cloud9 here.
Mm-hmm.
I think later on down the line, because I will be shocked if Cloud9 does not get their shit together towards the end of the split, right? Like if it does not happen and they continue to plummet, there would be discussions that this would, I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself, but there would be discussions like which is worse, FlyQuest last year or Cloud9 this year, right? And people are going to start comparing like salaries and all sorts of different things, but it would be in terms of catastrophic failure, it would be up there if Cloud9 continues to slip, right?
Yeah.
So I'm expecting Cloud9 to bounce back, in which case I think this win right here is still something that should be like absolutely like yes, good job FlyQuest, you did exactly what you need to do. No, Cloud9 was not performing at what they normally do, but there's still 5 really, really good players who have tons and tons of experience, and the next time you play them, they're most likely going to have that cohesion again. Mm-hmm. So take the win, be very happy with it. Don't slack off yet, though.
Yeah, I think ultimately I would agree with that. Final thoughts on the Cloud9 game, Curly. I do want to check in your thoughts on the Brand jungle. Do you like it? Do you like this new piece to the meta?
I mean, here's the thing. I have a bias against Brand in every capacity. He's like one of my least favorite champions in the game. So, like, that's a tough question to answer.
I mean, talk about
But
an
I
immobile mage, you know? Like,
not even that. I'm always on the receiving end of the worst facets of him because, like, if I'm playing against him, his fire has double damage, and if I'm playing with him, he steals all my CS when I'm the little ADC. But that's beside the point. Like in this game, I'd say that burn damage actually really showed in its ability to clear camps, and specifically when it comes to clearing the void grubs,
mhm.
because those things are actually surprisingly hard to take solo.
Mm.
Like, you do need to get like your a mid laner or your top laner to come and assist you if you want to take all three at once. Like, you can focus one down and do another, or if you're tanky, maybe you can stay for a while. But like solo for like your bruisers, it's not as easy as you would think it would be.
Right.
But because of Brand's AoE, he's constantly bringing them all down the whole entire time. And so it kind of helped us because I think we also ended up getting 5 out of the 6 void grubs and got the benefit from every once in a while when we're attacking. We just spawn more, So
Yeah.
and then also, was it Saturday where Bwipo just had the aggro of the void grubs for no reason too?
Yes, that
Yes,
was
they were
very
Captain
funny.
Flowers just freaking out about it.
That was the funniest thing ever.
I
That was
deeply
one of the
enjoyed
funniest
that.
things ever.
That was really good.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the final game of the week, the Dignitas one. So this game ends up ending in 28 minutes, and it 15 kills to 5, FlyQuest 12,000 gold ahead. But if you just looked at those numbers, it does not tell the full story. I thought this game might have been the end for the win streak. Might have been the end for the 3-0 weekend. The Dignitas bot lane showed up early, and they played well. They got some work in, and they made it a struggle for Massu and Busio for sure. Until Jensen shows up on the Tristana and absolutely blows them away. Another interesting comp coming out, the Gragas from Bwipo, inspired again on the Maokai, another tank jungle. Jensen on the Trist, Massu, Aphelios, and Busio busting out the Bard. Again, a great comp, very unique, tanky front line, lots of engage. But then Jensen knocks on a pick that he has been criticized for not doing so hot on, and yet he walks away with, I believe it was a quadra kill.
It was indeed a quadra.
A quadra, going 9-0-2, really not looking too shabby, in the lane and everything. Is this where the apologies must be offered to Jensen? Are we ready to tip the cap and concede on some things here?
Okay. I've got a trash can full of receipts. I'm not quite ready to put them in the recycling bin yet. Okay, they're there. They're in the trash. They're in the recycling bin. They're ready to be thrown out, but they're still in the house. They're not gone yet. And so let me tell you why I've not thrown them into the recycling bin outside the house yet for the dumpster or for the trash people to get them. And that is because it has been a single game of Tristana, and the rest have all been Orianna and Azir. I need to see him replicate this performance on Tristana again, or on other champions again against other teams, for me to be like, okay, yes, Jensen is great. Like, he's good right now, don't get me wrong. Like, I would say, I think from what I've seen and from what other people are saying, I think JoJo's still a better mid laner than Jensen currently, but he is the number 2 mid laner in the league right now, right? He is a good mid laner. I do not want to call him great yet until I see him show the fact that he can actually play other champions repeatedly. And here's the other thing that I'm actually going to use to back up my evidence on this. not only did Palafox in the pros interview state that his Tristana was not good in that game, he had a very easy cleanup fight, which is true. He did. It was a very, very easy cleanup fight, and he did well in that fight. His laning was a little lackluster. Dove was pushing him around, constantly shoving him back into base, was not having a lot of priority and being able to lead where he wanted to go first, so on and so forth. Did he lose lane? No, but like it was not the same level of control that he was showing on things like Azir and Orianna. So I want to see him actually be able to do those things on things like Tristana or other mid lane champions. Along with this, again, how I mentioned earlier, I was talking to Loyoda. Loyoda also agreed with Palafox's a little bit of analysis on the Tristana game, in that it was not overly impressive, and I guess I don't know how much he really wants me like talking his strats and stuff, so I'll be kind to him in that aspect. But basically, he was also not really impressed with what he was able to show on the Tristana. So with that said, Jensen has come a long way of actually turning my thoughts and opinions on him, right? I have years upon years of receipts in this little recycling bin that are ready to be tossed out, and I'm almost convinced to do it. I just need to see him do it a couple more times on a couple other champions that are not Orianna Azir. Because right now, FlyQuest is kind of being Orianna Azir merchants, and I want to see them be more than just that. So keep it up, Jensen. Do it a couple more times. I will throw that recycling bin out the window very soon if you can do it like just once or twice more.
Yeah, definitely he's on his way to redemption. Yeah, and it's a bigger discussion for sure. But
I've unironically got a skit planned if Jensen
excellent.
like proves me wrong.
Oh,
I have a skit,
I
I will release it if he actually proves me wrong.
Good. And it's an ongoing discussion as well. Curly,
yeah,
bringing it back to the game. AP Gragas, I don't want to call it AP Gragas because it's basically Rod of Ages. Is the first item, and then he goes Frozen Heart, and then he doesn't have time to build anything else because the game is over before he gets his third item. What are your thoughts on this AP Gragas? I don't think I've watched pretty much all the other LCS games this season.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the first AP Gragas. It might be the first Gragas top lane we've seen all season. If someone can correct me, if I'm wrong, that'd be amazing.
I don't think I've seen Gragas anywhere else, but I would be hesitant to call it an AP Gragas because the only quote unquote AP is the Dorn's Ring and the Roa. If you look at the rest of the items he was building, it's all defensive. You got Frozen Heart, and then like he was building an MR item, so it's like the rest of it was defensive, and he was trying to be tanky. He just wanted to get that little bit of extra AP from Roa, which I think is all he really needed to do. Because my guess is he was trying to get a little bit more like damage for himself in duels and all that stuff. Because especially with Aatrox, you want to be able to bring him down. You're not winning a sustained fight against Aatrox. You got to get him down as quick as you can.
So I checked really quick, Sandy. There's one other top lane Gragas that has been played, and it was
Broken Blade?
It was by Rich. I've not checked Europe, but at least in North America, Rich played it once versus Immortals.
Oops. Guess we're not watching LCS. My bad.
I didn't know either. I had to look it up.
For what it's worth, then it's not a very common pick whatsoever, right?
No, it's still not. 1 out of however many games have been played, or 2 now. So yeah, still rare pick. So yeah, I think it was. If you look at the rest of our compass, I think we kind of just out-chunked them.
Right.
Because you got Gragas, you got Maokai, and you got Bard, and it's like, try to get through us, dude.
Yeah, for sure. All right, this is kind of moving off of the Super Week thing. So any final thoughts on Super Week before I move on to a topic that I am excited to discuss? Not that I wasn't excited to discuss Super Week, that I am very interested in discussing with you guys.
Blitho still has a 100% win rate against Aatrox. Teams just need to stop playing it against us.
Fair. I actually just are we gonna do NaCl after this one, or do you want to do it now?
No, we'll do it after. Yeah.
Okay. Then you know what? Lead the way.
All right, cool. Let's talk Massio. Massio in the bot lane. But even when I say Massio, I think it's kind of misleading a little bit. Massu, yes, has been playing well, but he's kind of just been doing like his job, in my opinion. I don't think he's really been standing out so much that for me he's pushed into that upper echelon of top class bot laners in the LCS. But the other half of this bot lane, Busio, he played out of his mind this past weekend, in my opinion. Nautilus, of course, that amazing Q around the tower. The Bard against Dignitas looked really good. And then on against 100 Thieves, played the Nico. He had some critical engages that really set us up for success. This guy, I think, has really taken a step up since last season. And I just want to like give him some praise, give him some time, just to talk about him, his play. You know, now he's like, after spending all of last year in lane with double lift, where you know he's just learning, he's just there to learn from a vet. Now he is the leader, you know, in the bot lane of a sort. I mean, he said in his interview at one point that, you know, him and Massu, it's very much them figuring things out together. So it's a completely different role for him, you know, than last year, where he's kind of more just, he's just got to do it. I think he has really stepped up in a huge way. And, you know, he was one for me. He was one of kind of like the two question marks on this team. You know, the other, it was like Jensen. But then Busio, I was like, you know, he's good, but I wasn't like crazy impressed by his time on 100 Thieves. I think he is playing in a way that puts him in that top 3 support, you know, area right now in the LCS.
I think he's number 1. I think he's the best.
And Nox thinks he's the best support in LCS.
Straight up. Yeah,
I mean,
he's currently the best performing support right now.
Curly, where, like, without ranking them, like, your top 3 supports in the LCS, assuming Busio is 1, who would be your other 2?
Busio,
right
Huhi. Man.
It's tough without Vulcan being there.
Yeah, like Vulcan's not number 3 right now. It's kind of hard to pick a third.
Right.
I guess, call me crazy. This is actually, I think Ayla has kind of really shown up.
Ayla's looked good too. But
I think Ayla is really kind of boosted. Like these younger like supports are really doing it, man.
Yeah. But like after Busio and Huhi, it's hard for me to like find other supports that are playing as well as these guys are.
So I'm gonna give the nod to Ole. Ole has very much surprised me. Yeah. I think Ole's actually been performing extremely well, and coming from military service and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's doing a lot for Immortals right now. That Bard game that he had, to the point of where Captain Flowers was mistaking his name over Ayla's name or whoever's name it was, like because I forget what it was. Like Ole played the Bard, and then like the game after, Bard was also being played. And it was like, this is not Ole's Bard. Oh, it was Core JJ. It was Core JJ's Bard. And so Core JJ was like having a really bad Bard game. He's like, this is not Ole's Bard. And then there's another game, I think someone else was playing Bard, and he accidentally used Ole's name over that player's name. And so it was like, I don't know. I think for me, I think I'm going to actually slot Ole in at third, very surprisingly. And I had Ole as like one of the worst supports coming into the league. I will completely eat crow on that one. I thought he was not going to be good, and he's come to play. I'm very impressed with how he's been playing so far.
Yeah, I was sitting there while Curly was trying to think of a third, and I was almost about to say Ole. I was like, Ole's looking pretty good in the last few weeks.
Ole starts up.
But I just think Busio is running away with, you know, if you had to do all pro votes, Busio would be my number 1 support for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
I
agree.
And he is enabling Massu so well in these team fights. He's enabling the team. He roams well. He's laning well. I really think that Busio is just playing it super strong. I do want to ask both of you your thoughts on Massu real fast. Halfway through the season now, is he meeting your expectations? You know, because this guy was very much hyped. Is he meeting those expectations? Are you not as high on them, or not as high on him anymore? Where are you on him at this point?
The way I would describe it is he's on trajectory to meet my expectations. I always figured that when he first got into the LCS, because I mean, it's his first time like actually playing on stage, right? There's going to be stage nerves, and you can see that the first week. Like he was actually kind of nervous a little bit. I think he even had an interview where he was just like, "Yeah, I'm like kind of shaking off the nerves a little bit, trying to get used to how I want to play on stage and stuff." And I think little by little, I've noticed as the games have gone on, he's starting to be a little more aggressive in his play style. He's going like his Ezreal, for instance, he was arcane shifting a little more. His Aphelios game this past weekend against Dignitas, like that was a sick outplay to survive against XU, right? Like kept dragging him little by little, just staying on the outside of his range. It's kind of how I used to describe Prince when I was like first saying like when Prince was coming to NA. I was like, Prince always understood where the circle of engage was and knew how just to hover on the outside of it to bait the enemy team into him, and his team would collapse on it. That is exactly what Massu did to XU, and that's kind of what I used to see a lot back in the NACL. So if you can continue to replicate that in the LCS, he will be exactly where I expect him to be. So he's on his way there. I'm still watching. I don't think he's there yet, but he's on his way there, and that's good enough for me for the time being.
Nice. Curly, how about you?
See, for me, Massu is doing phenomenal. He's meeting every expectation I have. And I think the way you guys are kind of talking about it is like, yes, he's just kind of doing his job, but he's doing his job a lot more than I'd say some other ADCs are doing. And then the biggest thing is like he, if you look at stats, he has the I believe it is the second highest kill like amount of kills. And the only reason he's third in KDA is because he has, you know, he doesn't get assists as much as FBI does, and he's died twice more than Tactical, who has died the least out of ADCs, you know? So in terms of like raw stats, he's top 3 right then and there. And then if you look at him being lower in like some of the laning stats, it's like maybe his laning isn't always as strong as other ones if you look at like pure numbers. But the thing is he does exactly what he needs to do when he needs to do it, like 95% of the time. So he like is in perfect sync with your support, which I think is one of the most important things any ADC can do. Because sure, you can have the mechanics, sure, you can be good at getting CS, but there's like the sign to me of a really good ADC is someone who knows when to capitalize on what their support or jungle or mid or any other teammate is doing. And Massu is doing that every single team fight, you know, every single, and like even when we have rough starts, like getting first blooded against 100 Thieves, patiently wait for that momentum to come back, and then you get a double kill and run away with the game. It's just like he's got these moments, and like, yes, Busio is setting them up for him, but he is, you know, he is hitting that spike. He is not missing that bump.
So a funny little side tangent real quick. But how funny is it that if 2 years ago someone had heard you, Curly, say that Tactical has the least amount of deaths out of 80 carries in the league, you would have blown their minds. Just funny little side tangent. I just heard that and I started cracking up a little bit.
That is funny.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about adding Tactical to my fantasy team, swapping out Yawn for Tactical.
I would recommend it.
Yeah,
I would recommend that.
I'm thinking about it. All right. Well, that is the end of week 3 for LCS. Let us move on to the NACL and what's going on over there. FlyQuest Challengers, undefeated over there in series. sharing
They
the
dropped
same
one game.
sharing the same game score as the main team as well. 6-1. 2-0s over Disguised and Team Liquid Challengers. And just this past Saturday, a very close 2-1 over Cincinnati Fear. Nox, I remember reading somewhere, I think in our Discord, shout out the Flight Check Discord, by the way, that you felt like this was a series we should have lost. And after reviewing it today, I'm going to agree with you on that one. There were a few things I noticed. Cincinnati Fear, I think, should have closed out Game 2 way faster. They almost let us back in to Game 2 way too soon. And Game 3, they had
That early game was abysmal.
It was terrible early game. They had some huge advantages. Again, struggling to close it out, did not translate those advantages to mid-game domination and cruising to a win. Cincinnati Fear, in my opinion, should be 2-0, and feeling pretty good.
We should be 2-1,
and we should be 2-1. But hey, we take those. We take it when our opponents struggle. What were your big takeaways from this past weekend's matchup?
Surdy had a happy game in Game 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Did you check his KDA on that Game 3, by the way?
No, but hang on. I will take a look right now.
So it was well, actually, I'll let you reveal it to the stream or to the podcast. It was a rather big number. Actually, tell you what.
Oh yes, 2, 11, and 9. A KDA of 1, in fact.
It was quite the performance.
Yeah.
Surdy was having some happy gaming.
Yep. Although I do recall when he was 0-4, he almost did he almost manage to take down the Scion?
He almost soloed the Scion.
He almost soloed the Scion when he was 0-4, and I was like, oh boy, I think Rumble's good, guys.
What the hell?
Yeah.
And for reference, for people who don't know, Cincinnati Fear's top laner is ex-Fly Challengers, and also technically also FlyQuest top laner Philip.
Mm-hmm.
So this is who we were playing each other, and so
Surdy been in the LCS before.
Yes, and so Surdy almost soloed him while being down 0-4, which was a little funny to watch.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, Peyton continues to smurf every game. Like, even the game they lost, and even the Game 3, like, I know he didn't have a lot of agency in Game 3 just because of how horrendous the early game was, but Peyton is stupidly good. I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, he is way too good to be in the NACL right now. This man has got to be put in the LCS at some point. I don't even really know who the worst performing jungler is in the LCS right now. I think all the junglers, for the most part, outside of maybe Boogie, but even then, that's kind of insanity dragging him down a little bit. Like, all the junglers are decent, and so it just sucks that there's not a slot for him to actually be in the LCS right now.
I can see him replacing Boogie.
Like I said, it's totally possible, but like, it's just I don't think it's Boogie's fault really that Shopify is performing, or at least not 100% Boogie's fault that Shopify is not performing, but like, man, like, Shaden needs a team, man. This is ridiculous. He should not be down here. I think Quad still looks absolutely incredible. He is continuing to like punish his lane opponents for the most part. Need to see him continue to gel a little bit more in the mid to late game when you're like getting outside of lane phase, but he's looking okay for the most part. Sajid, I'll be honest, I didn't really watch the bot lane too much. I was more just kind of in shock and awe of what was happening topside with Surdy.
Yeah.
On top of the fact that Shaden's smurfing. So I apologize on that. I don't feel confident enough to comment on the bot lane and how that's going. Chime, I know, had some really, really good Nico ultimates in Game 1. Absolutely just completely stomped Fear with that. Outside of that, I don't really recall much about how our bot lane is doing. I'll do better about making sure I really take notes on them in the future, but at least for the top side and mid, like, that's kind of my thoughts on them.
Yeah. Where are you at on this team overall now that they are, 3 best of 3s into the season? Still a long way to go, and thankfully, this team is Challengers will continue to go on during the long-ass 2-week break from LCS. But it's only a single round robin, so they've only got 6 more best of 3s left to play. So far, they have not played any teams that are succeeding, really.
That's the funny part, right? Like, they
like-
played Disguised in TLC, which you would think would be up there.
Right, but they are
They're
1-2 and 1-3, 2-5, 2-6 in game score. Now, Cincinnati Fear, to be fair, should have won. I really do think they should have won this series, and so they should probably be 2-0, while we'd be 2-1. So you could say, like, okay, kind of around that level. But right now, looking very strong. Now, a challenge is coming up next Saturday against Wildcard.
Yep.
So first, talk to me about, 3 best of 3s into the season. Where are you at? How are you feeling about this team? And then preview this Wildcard matchup for us a little bit.
I still think they're the best team in the league. Don't get me wrong. I really do think Shaden and Surdy, when he's not having a happy game, are like the 2 best players in the league. I actually do think they're just that stupidly good.
Mhm.
Those 2 alone, that top jungle, like alone, we're going to have like an easy time dragging this FlyQuest team into like just being the best team.
Right.
Along with that, Quad is, I think, proving himself to be a very competent mid laner, especially in laning phase. And like I said earlier, I think I want to see him continue to develop a little further and being able to have cohesion with his team in the mid and late game and so on and so forth. And then Chime is Chime, still looking great. Like this again, I've said this 1,000 times. I think just this team is good. Most of the players on this are great. Quad, I think, is looking really solid. Sajid, I'm kicking myself for not really like watching this past week, but I think he's been okay so far. I want to continue to see him like develop a little further, which is fine. It's his first split in the NACL. He's extremely young. Give him some time. So I'm going to continue to expect this FlyQuest Challengers team to continue to win. As for the matchup this weekend against Wildcard Gaming, and for those of you who are not familiar with the roster really quick, you have top lane Quacker, who debuted on, I want to say, Supernova. Actually, I don't want to say that. That's probably wrong. He did play for Supernova, but I don't remember who he debuted with. But he was pretty okay. He debuted with AoE. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You have Winnie, then you have in the jungle, Darkwings in the mid lane, Arian in the bot lane, and Doxa as support. And Doxa should be a name that's kind of familiar with people who actually follow the NACL. This man hops around roles like it's no other. He's extremely good in all of them, but he's not. He's like a jack of all trades. He's not an elite in any of them, I would say.
Right.
Generally, I think they're going to be a challenge. It'll be FlyQuest's hardest challenge yet. As long as Surdy is not happy gaming, because I think if Surdy has another happy game, I don't think they're going to be able to get away with the series that they did against Fear. I think they should still be okay, and that'll just be that, right? Winnie, I think, will give Shaden his hardest challenge yet, and that's kind of what I'm curious to see. If Winnie can have a good game, FlyQuest Challengers may have some problems, but I think Shaden's still just that much better than Winnie that it should be fine.
Yeah. I'm definitely excited to see that wild card matchup. I think it'll be a good one. Curly, have you had much time to take in the Fly Challengers?
I have not. I was
That is
unfortunately
okay.
at work during Fly Challenge.
I didn't ask you before the show, and so I was like, I don't know how much he knows right now. I think the big thing for me, Knox, that I do want to talk about with this team, Quad has looked really good. I think he's really impressed me in a lot of his team fights, and in his laning. He's had some really strong lanes. He had one solo kill on Toasty. I think it was game 1, where I will say it was more Toasty's fault because, like, he knew that the Orianna ulti was up from Quad, and he was just kind of like walking right next to the ball. Like he was low too. It was kind of like just come and ulti me. Like almost trying like to bait it out so he could just like flash. But even that doesn't make any sense to me.
I think he just kind of had a brain off moment for half a second, and unfortunately got punished for that.
I think it was a brain off moment. But like Quad saw it and he was like, well, this guy's just like walking around, ball is next to him. are, and he just deletes them from the map. So quads looked really good. I will agree. I think Shaden has looked really strong. I will look again to that game 1 where the Nocturne Oriana combo was really strong.
Yep.
And
disgustingly strong.
And I think that it's got to go into some of the communication as well. The communication for this team looks really strong, especially, I will say, in game 3, where it's basically a comeback against the odds, truly, to take down Cincinnati Fear. Should not have won that game, but finally got to a point where the scaling was good enough, and then Chime, or not Chime, Adaption goes in with an ill-advised Nico ulti, and Saja just unleashes.
Yeah, that cleanse was nasty. That cleanse was perfect, like in the Aphelios ult, and then it was just done, right?
Yeah.
So
so that was very cool. And it's good to see good communication and good mental from this team, which is very exciting. Okay, final thoughts on NACL before we hit our final topic of the night.
I think final thoughts are my power rankings are completely foobarred. No one is where I thought they would be. So, and honestly, that kind of makes it fun, right? It kind of makes me reevaluate what I thought of players and what I thought of teams. But yeah, my power rankings are not recognizable right now with the actual standings.
Yeah.
Feels good to be at the top of 2 leagues.
It does.
Yes, sir.
Well, not only the top of 2 leagues, but kind of the top of 3, really, because FlyQuest RED in Valorant, in the Game Changers first open qualifier of the year, going all the way to Grand Finals. Really great stuff from this brand new team that has come together. Just looking at it, they end up going all the way through, really strong, 2-0ing all their opponents in the round of 16, in quarterfinals, and in semifinals. And I'm trying to see, I think they were, they 2-0'd, everyone they played, up until they run into Shopify Rebellion, which, for those of you who don't know, it's okay that FlyQuest RED lost to Shopify Rebellion in the in the grand finals, mainly because Shopify Rebellion just won Game Changers, back in December. So
and this is champions, like worlds, like the tournament, the prestige #1 tournament.
Yeah, the tournament. And I believe it's still the same team. Shopify Rebellion has not changed any players out, as best as I can tell. So they still have Mel. They have there's a player who last year was going by Floor or Fluorescent. I believe they're now playing under a new tag. It's like oh man. It sounds like Rukia or Rukio, something like that. Someone's gonna correct me in the chat in a second here. Okay, someone did say yes, Shopify is the same team. One of the players changed her name. That's the player I'm thinking of. It used to be Floor, and Floor was really, really good at Game Changers 23, when they went all the way to finals. So all that to say, Nox, you and I both watched this grand final between FlyRed and Shopify Rebellion. It was good. It was a very good, fun series to watch. And after watching it, my big takeaway was I feel very, very confident in this team's ability to not only succeed in North America Game Changers, but to qualify for Game Changers 24 by the end of the year and to do pretty well there. I think that absolutely is on the table, and I'm excited to see how far they go. This team looks really good. Were there any players for you on FlyRed that particularly stood out? I've gotten one in mind, but I want to see if you and I have the same person in mind here.
I'm like trying to pull up all the stats and stuff really quick.
I'm
So
also scrolling for a tweet related to FlyQuest because I've got a specific thing. I like 2 minutes yesterday to find this. Dear Lord. But my while Nox is looking, Dodo Nut is a name that I've seen in a lot of like analysts and like game changer Twitters like mentions like
Right.
saying that she's one of the top performers. I saw a stat card recently where she's just got like a higher KDA than a good amount of some of the other game changers players, and so I'm looking for it. But that's my like standout player. She's
Okay.
I will say
doing real good.
the player that comes to mind for me is
Sonder?
Starbound.
Okay.
Starbound, I thought played out of their mind. Did very, very well. Had numerous instances where things looked difficult, and they pulled out a clutch. They got the kills that we needed. It looked really, really good. I was really, really impressed with Starbound's play. All right, Nox, do you have?
So mine was Sonder, is what I was trying
Okay.
to remember. So admittedly, and I'm sorry for this. I remember I watched the stream obviously, and I
This was
know
2
of
weeks
the players,
ago as well. At this
but
point,
I had to go through the roster again one more time to remember the names properly because I've only watched them the one match, and
yeah.
Because honestly, that's all they've played. I think as far as I'm aware, they play again tomorrow, which we'll get into that here in a second. But
Yeah.
I've only played the one match, so I'm not familiar with the names off the top of my head. So I'm sorry about that. But I do remember thinking while watching with you, Sandy, Sonder had some very, very impressive flicks that were really opening. I guess what do they call them in Valorant? They're not lanes, but they're kind of lanes-esque, like the pathway down to the bomb site or whatever. Either way, it was opening up pathways for FlyQuest Red to push forward and stuff that. That Sonder was having very nice flicks on that. I kept thinking, I was like, damn, that's nice. That was a good shot. Stuff like that. Again, unfortunately, I have league brain. Valorant, I see gun go pew, person die. I don't know any of the strats. I'm sorry. I don't understand anything
Headshot,
proper push timing or proper flick timings. I don't get any of it.
Yeah.
I see someone shoot someone. I see person die. I say good job. That person looks good to me. And so for me, I think Sonder was popping off at least in terms of being able to clear the way for the rest of the FlyQuest squad.
Right.
Maybe eventually I'll learn a little bit more about how Valorant's supposed to work and strategy behind it and whatnot. But at least in terms of pew gun kill things, I think Sonder looked really, really good, at least in that series that I watched.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought the whole, because I watched several of the best of threes. I watched I know I watched quarters and semis and grand finals. I don't think I watched round of 16. But yeah, quarterfinals looked really good. I'm trying to pull up what the score lines were on both of those.
Like their KDAs?
No, just what the scores were. Oh, yeah. So it was 13-7 and 14-12 versus Unpaid Dogs. And then, they had a couple closer ones. They played against one team in semis where they did end up going to OT on map 2 and managed to get it out. The big thing that I wanted to mention with the Shopify Rebellion match was when they played Ascent, they dominated. That was map 2 against Shopify Rebellion.
That was the one with the overlay issue, though. Where you and I came back and it was like, hey, they're 9-3 in the map.
Yeah. Because I didn't have the volume on, and then all of a sudden I come back and I'm like, oh, it's 9-3. I had no idea that was going on. And then played really well. But then it was disappointing because Lotus started out so well with the 4-0, and then Shopify just goes 7 rounds back to back, and ends up then when they switch over to CT side, it just
they looked completely lost. That is the one thing I actually do feel confident commenting on was there's 3 rounds in a row. What do they call it? Flawless, right, Sandy?
Yeah, flawlesses. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was 3 flawlesses in a row for Shopify, and it was just you could tell. I don't. Do you know? The Game Changers have the right to do what? Not technical.
Timeouts.
Yeah, timeouts. Like not
Yeah, no,
technical,
they
but
have. Yeah,
what's
they
it
have
called?
timeouts. I mean that's across all of Valorant.
Okay,
And
I don't
I
know. It
know
felt like there should have been one called there, and they just didn't.
there
You
was
know?
a timeout called, I believe, but I don't think there was one called right after the second flawless. And like, if I have any criticism to offer from that series, it would have been like, okay, after the second flawless, you need to just like take a moment, be like, regroup, get your head back in the game, shake it off, and dive back in, because I think clearly on Lotus, just like Shopify just really stepped up, because it went from 4-0 to 7-5 to 12-5, and they were on match point. You know,
They got two. They got two last rounds in, I believe.
yeah, they pulled it to 12-7 before Shopify closed it out. But yeah, it just wasn't it. Again, Starbound was absolutely going off, either top player or number 2 in all of that grand finals. I'm just going to read these KDAs off. So now losing on Icebox, right? 13-8, 21-13-1, pretty good. Then when we dominated on Ascent, 23-8-1. And then when we lost on Lotus, 13-12-3. So like such a strong KDA coming out from Starbound. Probably the player that impressed me the most from this tournament. So I'm really excited to see them play again real soon. I believe there is one more open qualifier. It actually, I believe, starts tomorrow, February 6th, going all the way through the 10th. FlyQuest RED should be in a good position just based off of the points. They got 30 points for taking second place. So I think they really probably just need to like get top 8, and they probably will make it in just based on points alone. Obviously, would love to see them win the closed qualifier. And then, from what I understand, they should be playing in, this is exciting, the like Valorant NA Challengers League open qualifiers, trying to qualify into Challengers League 2024. Shopify Rebellion participated in the first OQ that took place over the weekend, or over the end of last week. And then open qualifier number 2 starts, that's on February 12, with top 32 happening the 13th through the 15th. I believe they're going to be playing in that, trying to qualify for the main.
This is like the actual legit tier 3 qualifying into like the actual.
Yes, this is actual like Valorant VCT qualifying into the NA Challengers League.
Okay, cool.
So that would be really great to see, obviously. So yeah, so great stuff coming out from FlyRed, Valo.
We also need to talk about their CSGO team.
Yes, I was going to discuss that next week, because I have no idea what's going on with them. I know they just won a Cash Cup.
Yeah, they won a Cash Cup.
Yes.
Over the weekend, went 2-0 against Shimmer CSGO.
Nice.
Yeah, and they're actually playing right now and doing pretty good. I'm
trying to find where they are for ESCA.
We'll make sure to raid the stream after this.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now they're up 4-1 against Notorious.
That means I'm gonna go have to. All right. Well, I'll figure that out while we discuss our final thing of the night, and we got to hurry this up, actually, because we've been going a long time. All right. Final thing of the night, real quick. Week 4 predictions. Got to get them out there. Curly,
we do got to get by.
Working overtime in the background to get this graphic put together. I'm gonna put them up on screen right now. Bam. 2-0 over Shopify, Rebellion, and Immortals. That is the call from all 3 of us. Nox, Curly, in that order, Why the 2-0 week? Why are we so confident?
Shopify has not shown me that they are going to be able to push FlyQuest in any way, shape, or form, really. Like, and that's kind of the thing, is the way FlyQuest is playing right now is, I don't want to say standard, but it's very like, win your lanes and then control the objectives and then wait for the enemy to mess up, and then we're just going to pounce on you, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if teams really want to have a shot at being able to punish FlyQuest, it's you need to push them to make unforced errors, right? Not unforced errors. You need to push them to make forced errors rather than waiting for an unforced error to appear in front of you. Like, I just don't see Shopify currently being able to do that. Immortals, on the other hand, I think recently has been kind of stepping up a little bit, and I can see a world where they do want to try and push Fly to make a mistake. But the thing is, I don't think that, as much praise as I was giving Ole earlier, I don't think the bot lane as a whole of Tactical Ole are going to be good enough to really punish ours. I don't think Mask is currently good enough unless they have a good draft and actually put Jensen on something other than Azir and Orianna, in which case then you have a chance. I don't think they're going to be able to punish Jensen. I think Inspired is quite a ways better than Armeo, and so I would be surprised to see Armeo get the better side of Inspired, and then I think Whippo's just a better top laner than Castle, although Castle has actually been semi-okay in my opinion. So
Right.
It's more of just like firepower difference, I would say, is the main leading problem. I think Immortal's style is a little bit able to do what would need to be done to beat FlyQuest, but I don't think the firepower is there.
Yeah, fair enough. Curly, fire away.
Yeah, I think like I'm just not scared of Shopify Rebellions at all. They've got their 2 wins have been like pretty solid, but I just don't think they've got it in them to beat us. And then with Immortals, with all respect to the team, like they are definitely performing really well. And I think the 2 biggest points of contention that they might be able to get against us are if Castle can maintain himself against Whippo, and if Tactical can, keep up his high KDA and maybe try to bully Massu in the bot lane. Like those are the only 2 weak, like potential points of contest in this matchup for me. But otherwise, I'm just utterly confident in our guys to just pull out better, So
yeah, absolutely.
I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, I am also not worried whatsoever. This should be a solid 2-0 week, moving on to an 8-1 start. But we all know that, as soon as we say that now, this will be the week that something bad happens.
Silence.
So knock on wood that does not occur. All right. I believe that should be everything from us tonight. Do you guys have any final notes or things you want to discuss before we wrap up the evening?
I think someone may have to check me on this, but I briefly went through the franchised era of FlyQuest, and I think this is the first time FlyQuest has ever had sole possession at the end of a week of first place. So that's kind of a huge moment for the org. So congrats to the league guys. Congrats to the league team. That's awesome. Hopefully we can ride that all the way to the end, because that would be awesome. So
that would be great, for sure.
Yeah. For me, I'm just really hyped. This team is coming together so much better than I could have expected. Like I already had high expectations.
Yeah.
And somehow they are going even further. So good freaking job, guys. Keep it up. I'm excited. And, I might be crazy. I might be planning a trip to California at the end of March if I can manage it.
Oh, boy.
Just to see this team win LCS, if I can. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Oh, that's exciting. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning into yet another great episode of Flight Check. Week 4, around the corner. Shopify Rebellion on Saturday, Immortals on Sunday. You need to know what our thoughts are on all these things. And the best way you can do that, going and following us on Twitter for all of our instant reactions and thoughts. You can catch the show at Flight Check Crew, myself at SantosDB, Nox at NoxWar with 2 R's, and Curly at Curly_QQ_. Make sure to hop into the Flight Check Discord as well. All kinds of esports discussion and otherwise taking place in there. And if you missed any part of this episode, the VOD will be up on YouTube tonight or tomorrow morning. If you're watching that and would like to catch the show live, we do broadcast the episode, usually every Monday night, usually at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at twitch.tv/FlightCheckCrew. Curly, any final shout-outs before we wrap up?
This one's going to be a very random one. Shout out to Leve, my favorite artist, for winning her first Grammy, which is also her first nomination. So congratulations to her yesterday, and being able to perform with Billy Joel in his first new song in like a couple of decades. So
there we go.
Like big day for Leve fans.
Awesome. Knox, how about you?
Shout out to my wife who just lost her mind finding out Taylor Swift has a new album coming out. So yeah. Also shout out to my handyman. I had my first hot shower in my house for the first time in like a month, and it was glorious. Dang. Finally figured out how to get the hot water flowing, and it was like the best thing I've felt in ages.
Nice. Solid. For myself, dang, I don't think I have any shout-outs. I'll keep the music thing going. Shout out a band called Spirit Box. They got nominated for a Grammy, but lost to Metallica, which, because Metallica really needs more awards. I don't really understand how that works.
They're still doing things that they can earn Grammys for?
Apparently so. But you know what? It is what it is. And what it actually is that we'll be back next week to discuss week 4 of LCS. So for now, I'll just say stay safe out there. Do not forget to hit the head on the nail. And we'll see you very, very soon. Adios, everybody.
No more nail and hammer analogies for me. Have a good one, guys.
Peace, y'all.
And